A period allocation is the process of distributing monetary amounts to one or more accounts or account and dimension combinations. AX has the ability to use predefined allocation rules to perform a generated allocation. The generated allocation is the distribution of posted or fixed amounts to various combinations of destination accounts and dimensions at any time, which will generate a new general journal entry. Each allocation rule can be one of the following methods: a basis, a fixed percentage, fixed weight, or spread evenly. Allocations also provide the ability to allocate across multiple companies. This is known as intercompany allocations. Ledger allocation rules allow you to define the results you want in the allocation business process. Each ledger allocation rule has 4 primary components: the general settings, which dictate which fields are available in the Rules tab; the source data for the allocation, which is also known as the allocation pool. This is where the data will come from to create the new allocation. The destination data defines how the results of the allocation calculation must be distributed to the destination distribution lines. Offset entries balance the destination distribution lines so that the journal entry will balance. There are many reasons why or how you might decide to allocate amounts in your general ledger. Let's take a look at 2 examples. In the first example, we will assume a fixed percentage. Let's say you record a utility bill to a generic department called corporate. However, for financial reporting and budgeting purposes, you want to spread the total amount of the utilities across each of the departments based on a fixed percentage. You will define the basic information about the rule, such as the rule applies for only 2014. The source is defined as the electricity expense account where the department is corporate, and the destination is the same electricity expense account with various different departments based on percentages that you define. In the next example, we will use a basis calculation. This is useful when the amounts are different in each period or time you perform the allocations. Let's say you have one manufacturing facility that produces all the items for your company. The labor is recorded in total, but you want to allocate the labor to each of the cost centers for the various different types of products that are produced in the warehouse. Because the amount of sales varies from month to month, each cost center, a fixed amount or percentage will not work. Instead, you must create a basis that defines the source for the percentage as a range of the sales accounts. The source on the rule is linked to the appropriate operating expense account, and the destination is the same account with different cost centers. Let's open AX and take a look at how to set up allocation rules. Okay, so in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create a ledger allocation rule. This is found in the General Ledger module underneath Setup, Posting, and then Ledger Allocation Rule. To create a new record, click the new icon and give your rule a name. In my example, I'm going to allocate the amounts to individual departments for my electricity expenses. This rule is only going to be effective for from January 2014 through the end of the year. It's important to mark your rule as active. If you do not mark the active checkbox, it will not be able to be selected or processed from the Process Ledger Allocation Rule form. Next, let's go to the General tab. Here I'm going to put in the details of my particular rule. At the bottom on the left-hand side, we need to select the method. For mine, I'm going to use a fixed percentage. On the right-hand side, we're going to choose the source. In our case, the data source is going to be the ledger. This means that I'm going to allocate this based on the actual ledger transactions. I don't wish to perform any mathematical operations, so I'm going to leave this field as none. And I could optionally choose a date interval code. I'm going to choose current period. The next thing I need to do is select the journal name. These journal names must be predefined in the General Ledger Setup area. In our Journal Setup chapter later on, we'll discuss how to create journals. Now that I've completed the General Setup, on the Offset tab, I must select the offset information. By default, this will be set to the source. In my example, I'm going to leave this information. If you wanted to fix the offset account to use a different account, you can specify this by selecting User Specified and then typing in all of the information. Next, I'm going to define the source account. I do this by using the Source button on the top of the screen. In my example, I want to use the main account for the electricity expense. So I'm going to click the new icon. In the field setting, I'm going to choose main account. And then in the source criteria, I will choose the account. In my example, I'm using 605160. If I also wanted to filter for dimension or department, I could add a second line, change the field setting to the financial dimension, select which financial dimension I want to filter on, and then select the department or value that I want to filter. I'm going to delete this record because for my example, I want to allocate all transactions that are posted to main account 605160. Next, I'm going to close this form and open the destination form. The destination is going to define where I want the amounts to get posted to. This starts off as being an empty list. So what I'm going to do is click the new icon and I'm going to allocate some percentages that I decide, 25%, to a specific account and specific dimension. In my case, I want the account to remain the same GL account. So I type in 605160, and then in the department field, I will choose that I want 25% to go to sales and marketing. Next, I'll create a second record, and I want 25% again to go to the same account, except on this row, I'm going to choose the operations department. I'll repeat this process until I've reached 100%. All right. So I've created 4 lines here allocating 25% to each of these. Now it wouldn't necessarily need to be even amounts like I've done in my particular example. However, you can type in and create as many rows as you want. Once the allocation has reached 100%, and you can see that in the percentage and total field, you can close the screen, and as long as the rule is active, you can begin using it. I've pre-created some transactions that have been posted to this particular ledger account. So we're going to go ahead and process our allocation request. This is done in the periodic folder underneath Process Allocation Request. In the drop-down box for the allocation rule, I need to choose which rule I want to run. In this case, I want to run the electric rule and the period. Now when I chose this particular allocation rule, it has a date range on it from the date interval that I selected. I want to do this as of the first of the month. Actually, let's do it through the end of the month, so 9/30, and the GL posting date is going to be 9/30 as well. In the zero source field, I need to select what should happen in case the source account doesn't have any transactions. Do you want it to continue processing or stop? In my example, I want it to continue processing. The next field is the Proposal Options field. This allows me to decide if I want the system to automatically post my allocation or just propose it and allow me to review it and then post it. I've switched mine to be proposal only, so we're going to have to review and then manually post this. We can type in a release date if we so choose and a reason code and comment. When you're ready, you click OK. This may take a few moments to run depending on the volume of transactions in your demo data. Now that the allocation rule is completed, I can view it by going into the Journal section and then opening Allocation. Here at the very bottom, you can see my journal. I could update the description of this if I needed to, but I'm going to click the Lines button to view the details. Here you can see in my example, I had created an invoice for $10,000 and it's now being allocated across many different departments that I had specified at the 25% each. If I'm happy with this, I can go ahead and print the journal and post it. Once you click the Post button, this journal becomes finalized and the changes will take effect in the general ledger. Once it's done posting, we're going to close these windows down, and I want to show you how we can print a ledger allocation report. If you have many different allocation rules and the departments or the breakdowns might be complex, this report is useful to print the information about those allocation rules. The report can be found underneath General Ledger, Reports, Base Data, Various, and then Allocation Rules Definition. I'm going to use the Select button and choose the electricity rule that we just created. And click OK. When I'm ready, I click OK and the report will generate to my screen. Here you can see the details of that allocation rule we just created.